Hi everyone, Eric with Timber Creek Collective here, bringing you Autumn Cabin. I start this piece the way I start my other pieces, and that's by laying everything out in pencil. That way I can erase, make changes, but I can get everything the way I want it in the right proportions. Next comes 2 coats of white acrylic paint. I went ahead and covered up the wood grain on the plywood on this because it doesn't really contribute to the piece in this particular case. And I'm coming back with an oil-based stain called Fishing Village. It's kind of a grayish blue-green. And when you wipe it on to dry acrylic with a paper towel, you end up with what looks like a cloudy sky. And the thing I love about this is you get different tones of gray, you get different darknesses, you get some lighter areas, some darker areas, much like you would see if you looked up at a cloudy sky. Now we're going to mix up some colors for our trees. We're going to do some fall trees. So the gray color that I'm using here for the trunk is pewter gray and nutmeg brown, also acrylic. Get these guys painted in here. I'll come back and touch them up and do a little detail work on them. That guy's going to be a little closer, so we'll make him a little taller. And this one over here, he's probably going to get covered up by part of the frame, but we'll make him a little bigger so it still gets noticed. And then fill in some of these secondary branches here, and then we'll be ready for some leaves. So the colors that we're using for the leaves here, the yellow is a golden yellow, lightened with some daffodil yellow and a little bit of white. The orange is a harvest orange, lightened with daffodil, which is the light yellow, and a little bit of white. And then the red is apple red, lightened with a little bit of white. And I'm applying the paint here with a piece of natural sponge. I try and find a piece that has a lot of fine points on it, and it really gives good texture for leaves. The other thing I'm doing on technique here is I'm using the lighter color first, and then I come back with the darker color, and that allows me to do some highlights over the lighter color. Also, as I progress through the paint, if I were to start and go the other way around, I would actually be tinting the other colors more by starting with the darker than the lighter. Now it's time to lay down the first strips. This is always exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time. If you don't get these first strips on straight and square and exactly where you want them, you'll fight with it the rest of the time you're working on the piece. You'll also notice that I've got a strip at the top and at the bottom, which I don't normally have. But on this particular piece, I'm using a piece of leftover 1/4-inch plywood, and I don't normally use that because it warps and bends. And that's what happened in this case. So I took a couple of extra pieces of 3/4-inch cedar strip, and I used the table saw to cut a notch in it and then slipped it over the top and the bottom, and that keeps it fairly flat, at least flat enough I can glue the pieces down without them popping right back off. So now it's time to build the cabin. I'm going to start with the porch. What I'm using for logs here, I used 1/2-inch hardwood dowel. And for the first layer of logs and for the upper trim pieces, which you'll see later, I used a piece of this 1/2-inch dowel, and then I ran it through my table saw to cut off 2 edges to make it into a piece of 1/4 round. This allows it to glue to the backer board and to the other piece below it nice and square and securely so it doesn't move around or wobble. This should keep it from breaking loose later. The rest of the logs are the same hardwood 1/2-inch dowel, but just cut in half lengthwise and then cut to the proper length. So I use hot glue on all of these pieces to glue the individual pieces down because I can take it up and redo it. I could probably get better adhesion with a construction adhesive, but if I was to use that, I would never get that piece off. It would destroy the piece just trying to fix a mistake. So for what I'm doing, the hot glue works really well. In this section here went faster than the other sections, it seems like, just because it was straight cuts. There were no windows or doors to worry about. Those vertical strips there that you see, those are supports for the porch. For the door, I found a couple of strips that were cut-offs from another adjustment or another strip that I cut, and they're about an 1/8 inch thick. They're cedar and they were 3/4 of an inch wide, which was just perfect for the front door. So those got a little bit of hickory colored gel stain, which gives a little contrast but not too much. So that worked out well. All of these pieces that I do require a lot of fitting and testing and cutting and sometimes recutting. It's just to get everything to fit together right. I always dry fit things before I actually glue them down. I want to make sure that everything is where I want it and where it needs to be before I actually affix it. Just makes life easier. I didn't realize it till a little later, but I'm about to make a mistake. There's 2 mistakes. Whoops. So I did go back and fix the mistake, but this area here, this is one of the biggest challenges for this particular piece. This cabin has a ribbed metal roof. So my challenge was, how do I make ribbed metal roofing to this scale? I looked for scale model roofing and nothing really fit the bill. It wasn't what I wanted. So I set out to make my own. And I tried the Coke can, and I tried a taller can. I tried a piece of tin, but it was too stiff. My biggest problem with all of these things that I tried was I could get the ribbed shape that I want, but the problem was durability. If it gets bumped into and crushes one of the ribs, it's ruined. There's really no way to straighten that back out without taking the piece apart, and I didn't want that. So then I had the idea of these catering pans. I use foil catering pans for other things, but I rarely use the lids, so I had a ton of them around, and they're a little bit heavier than a soda can, which worked out okay. You can see here I cut some strips of wood to press the foil into the grooves there to kind of create my own, and it did okay. There's a picture of the pan lid before I cut it up. This did okay, but it still didn't solve the durability issue, so it's so-so in my mind. So I came up with this. I went to the hobby store and I bought some 1/8 inch balsa wood strips, and I cut them to length, and then I glued them to another piece of 1/4 inch plywood. So this gave me ribs that were durable, so if it gets bumped into, it won't crush the metal. And then I used HVAC tape. Still foil, still metal, so it gives that nice sheen, but it won't crush when it gets bumped into. It's much more durable. And then I also roughed the surface of the aluminum tape up where I'm going to paint it, and that way it'll hold paint. And this is what it looks like when it's done. Doing a little detail work here, putting in some window cross pieces, and if you notice at the top of the roof, there's a gap there between the trees and the top of the roof. I didn't paint the trees quite far enough down, but I'll fix that off camera. So here I'm using the same 1/8 inch balsa wood strips to make the cross pieces for the window. I'm using that hickory gel stain again, and I'm using a Q-tip to apply it just because the pieces are so small. If I'd used a brush, it would end up all over me and all over everything else. This actually worked out really well. Dry fitting everything, do some trimming. Then we glue. So once I fix the roof permanently, the cabin part will be done. But I left this portion at regular speed just because it's very satisfying to me. I use a torch to give the wood character or bring out the character in the wood, the texture. It also gives it some depth. You'll see here, I'm adjusting the flame on the torch because there's a sweet spot in the flame where it's hot enough to give the color and the effect that you want, but it's not, you don't have to stay there for a long time. Be real careful here. You don't want to scorch anything or catch it on fire. Definitely don't want to damage the cabin after all the work that went into it. Yeah, I'd love to see that texture pop out. You can see I'm not spending very much time in any one spot. I'm moving fairly slowly and consistently and getting the result that I want as I go. Part's so cool to me. I discovered it by accident on another piece and I've used it quite a bit since. These bottom two pieces are still cedar, but they're from a different board, so they don't have that great texture that the upper pieces do, unfortunately. But once I got it treated with the torch, it actually blended in pretty well and looks pretty good. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to see more videos like this, check out these on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much. See you soon.